What's up, strugglers? Comic King here. Welcome to another episode. This is episode 2 of Breakdown Beatdown, and today on the show I have Comic King Senior of Americas. Right, that's how you say it.
Emeritus.
He's my dad. So happy Father's Day. He's coming out on Sunday, and today we're going to cover, just because it's one of my favorite stories, and it's also responsible for getting this guy back to comics. Everything I got from comics from this guy. He got me into everything, and he's a OG classic Silver Age collector, so that's why I wanted to have him on this episode specifically, because it relates back to some of the older books. But today we're covering Ultimates by Mark Millar and Brian Hitch. I have my omnibus collection here. It's got both Ultimates 1 and 2. Today we're just covering the first Ultimates, 1 through 12 of the original series, so that way, more bang for the buck. That way we could cover Ultimates 2 another day. But yeah, thanks for doing it.
Yeah,
it's a big deal to me.
You're filming all over the place, and this is a fun. It's gonna be a fun time. He's talking about the OG stuff, so I brought my OG.
Yeah.
There's no omnibus, baby. This is the real deal.
Oh, there's an omnibus for it.
I'm sure there is.
You can read it.
I'm sure there is.
It ain't like a collector's item. Like that's the real deal.
That's the real deal. So it's fun to talk about the ones you like the best and love the best from back in the day.
Yeah, but this is nostalgic because this is you had growing up. You had all the old OG graphic. You had all the collections for it. So this is like one of the first.
Yeah,
graphic novels I remember peeping through. Now I didn't read it till later, to like middle school, high school, because it's pretty adult. It's definitely modern. But yeah, we're covering just the first 12 issues, and like I said in my first episode, this show, we take a graphic novel, break it down, beat it down, get into the nitty gritty, and so it's more detail oriented compared to just my regular review videos. And how I want to do this show, sometimes I'll have people on who've read the book, and sometimes I have people on who haven't read the book. So in this case, he, of course, has read it. So it'll be more of a conversation. We're still going to go through the story full hand and talk about it and stuff, but it'll be more, you'd be talking about the book instead of me telling the stories to like my friends, stuff like that. So, but yeah, it's Ultimates, and it kicks off right away, and I think it's 44. It's towards the, 45, North Atlantic. This is like basically right out of Saving Private Ryan and Band of Brothers. It's gritty, and this is when it's basically they're storming the beaches of some Nazi scientific, research facility, and I feel like this is like one of the most iconic.
It's scientific. I mean, it's iconic. I mean, it's really telling the story though of Cap's last mission with Bucky, right? So that's the tie-in, which goes to, of course, the OG, my friend, the OG number 4, and date back. So. It ties in with what happened to him, and obviously there's elements that are in the movies from that specific mission as well.
Oh yeah, everything you like about the MCU is basically from the Ultimate Universe. I mean, of course there's stuff from the OG and they mix it, kind of combination for the two, but this is really, the Ultimate Universe was kind of designed to be, a bit more modern and, bring these heroes, you see them through more realistic lenses, but basically the Avengers, especially the first one, is like straight up Ultimates. But basically Mark Millar in this first issue, they're raiding the beaches, and this shows that this isn't your typical Avengers or Marvel books. Like Captain America is very much he's a real soldier in this, with all the baggage that comes with it, good and bad.
Yeah, and they do a good job in there of the jealousy of Special Mission and being an army guy. Guys doubt that, which is also displayed in the MCU. And I think bringing it more forward, the Ultimates do a better job, and of course this is after 9/11, so do a better job of sort of permeating that war piece that Cap has got.
He's definitely got
firmly entrenched in that as he moves forward, and I think it's downplayed in many places, but it's a great start.
Yeah. Well, what's cool is that when Cap came back from, you told me this, he's just kind of like, I'm in the modern world superheroes. It's not, of course later, post 80s and stuff, in the modern era, of course they do stuff in the main 616 timeline of him adjusting, they go back and retell him and stuff, but they hadn't really done that before for this. Ultimate Universe saved Marvel. I mean, Joe Quesada launched it, and it started with Ultimate Spider-Man. So basically, it was Ultimate Spider-Man, X-Men, Ultimates, and then Fantastic Four. But when Spider-Man and X-Men started struggling, just in case you don't know, it was a lot of teasing, but it wasn't until Ultimates that kind of really tied everything together. I mean, explained where the heroes kind of come from. And there's other books that do that too, but this is kind of really this was like a huge deal when it came out.
And I'm going to say something about the Ultimate Universe because, and I'll drop some stuff on here, but Austin, grew up in Austin. I was working in Austin at the time and went by Austin Books, the old Austin Books that I grew up with. Of course, had been bought out, and Bankston from Waco had bought them out and had redone the store. So the Ultimates, hey, what's new and fresh? And basically they were on Ultimate Spider-Man #3. And so I bought a compilation of 1 through 3 that was out to catch up, and then I started pulling in and reading that stuff. This is before you were around even. And it did a great job of elongating, hey, in the original Spider-Man, he was just a kid for a little while. He was just a high school kid for a little while. It's the same thing in here. You mentioned Cap. There's probably in that Cap #4, I think there's one, it's been a long time, but there's basically one panel where he's walking around New York and sees a statue of Bucky or something, and that's kind of the ode to, this, I'm a man out of time. Mm-hmm. But this series, just like Ultimate Spider-Man, elongates that. Like it's not a rush to...
He walks through his old neighborhood in this. It's like completely run down.
He lives in his old neighborhood.
He's basically Clint Eastwood, kind of, and it reminds me of Clint Eastwood, the way he talks. But yeah, it's like you're saying, it's like Ultimate Spider-Man, like that's, in my opinion, that's the greatest Spider-Man story ever. Because that's kind of the only, it's really the Ultimate Universe book that kind of got to live the dream the entire way through. And, he's a high school kid, but, what's cool with that is, he's a high schooler the whole time, but he's dealing with real life stuff, and it's like, it gets crazy. But yeah, this is everything you like from the MCU, just anything modern Marvel. I like kind of strive, it's from this book. And even though people say, oh, it is a little edgy, it gets a little, sometimes it's very much like The Boys a little bit, now. But the thing is, people, have that, when they're talking about negatives, they kind of hail on that book a little bit. But at the same time, they say that, but I'm like, yeah, but it's kind of part of its charm. And then it's also one of the most influential Marvel books ever. Half the stuff that Marvel fans have today wouldn't have happened without this book. Right. Really just all of Ultimate Universe, but especially, in my opinion, this and Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yeah. The edgy stuff is it's really fun to read the Hulk, in that setting, which they're not going to do in other ways. He's not going to eat people in the MCU, whatever.
But horny for Betty.
Yeah, but you read, you watch The Winter Soldier, and Cap at the beginning jumps out of the plane without a chute, right? And it's referencable. That's in the opening panels of this book. And so much of this book has influenced everything past. And you mentioned, when I was rereading it, prepping, hey, Samuel L. Jackson is referenced. All these guys are referenced, and what's true is it's come to pass. So
there's so much.
It's a fun book to read.
Here.
It's much fun to read now. Yeah, really, and than it was back in the day when it was really, really fresh. And I certainly enjoyed it. Having grown up on the original one, and the Avengers were my team. So it was not as a kid. So it's great. Yeah.
So we start off. They're storming the beaches, and what's different in this is that. So, Struggle, just in case there's the Chitauri. Now, if you've seen the first Avengers movie, which I'm sure you all have, that's the alien species that Loki gets from Thanos to invade Earth with. Well, the Chitauri's from this book. Now, the Chitauri in the movie, completely different than this book. They don't even, they're just kind of just an alien sci-fi race that just got armor and stuff. It's just kind of cannon fodder for that movie or the Avengers. But in this, they're basically the Ultimate Universe version of the Skrulls. And so they're really the main antagonist of Ultimates 1. And basically, it starts off, they're invading the beaches, and the science division, Nazi science division, basically aliens showed up and they're alien Nazis. They're fighting for the bad guy. It ain't much more complicated than that. But basically, they advanced the Nazi technology, or Germany. That's basically why America started the super soldier program. It's because intelligence got that, there's something otherworldly helping the Germans out. And it's the Nazis the Chitauri, and basically they, started their own kind of Manhattan Project because they had their own, their own technology. Yeah, they gave the Nazis futuristic technology to be able to create like the atom bomb and the nuke, 20 years before real time in the real world. And so basically that's why America started the super soldier serum and to combat that. Basically it's just that first issue is just how Cap, there's Bucky, he gets in the ice, and then it cuts to modern day. Now, when it cuts to modern day, takes place after the events of the first few arcs of Ultimate Spider-Man, the first arc in Ultimate X-Men, and then I don't know if you remember this, you gave me this old trade paperback when I was little. It's one of the first comic books I ever read. They did the Ultimate Marvel team-up. And so the Rampage, so basically it cuts open and Nick Fury is talking to Bruce Banner about the super soldier serum, but Nick Fury, being the jackass he is, makes a reservation at a restaurant with overlooking a part of New York City that the Hulk demolished. And that story where the Hulk did it, how Bruce Banner has that, right? It's from that issue, right. Which is a really cool tie-in because
I think I still have those.
Yeah,
the way
the trade's back. I have the trade somewhere, but basically the Hulk is this kind of regular Hulk, and he's one of the first kind of superhumans after the super soldier stuff kind of started. Because basically how that happened was that in the not to spoil Ultimate X-Men, but I'm gonna the first arc in Ultimate X-Men, the mutants start, kind of coming to the world, and they're kind of doing their own thing, but Magneto. People are starting to notice, especially the government, that, hey, there's these superhumans coming around and, it's an allegory for racism or whatever, but they start hunting down the mutants, and then basically Magneto destroys Washington, D.C. The X-Men stop him, but once that happens, the government is like, okay, we got to bring back the super soldier program and get the ball rolling to combat the mutant problem. And so that's basically how they tie in every other superhuman being in the Ultimate Universe that's not a mutant. And so... I think the mutants kind of started from they were trying to recreate it because in the Ultimate Universe, Wolverine is the original mutant through Weapon X. They were doing stuff with him, and that created the mutant gene. So in Ultimate 3, which is kind of mixed baggage, it kind of retcons that like Wolverine's actually the father of like Scarlet Witch and
I don't remember getting that far, but
that book is awful.
There's some like we've had these discussions where they continue and all of a sudden it just gets bad.
That's when the Ultimate Universe is going downhill. That's when it's getting around Ultimatum and stuff. And Jeff Loeb is one of my best writers ever, but he's written some of the greatest comic books and then some of the worst books. But basically, it's kind of like the movie where Nick Fury, he's just been promoted to S.H.I.E.L.D. And unlike the 616 universe and the 16 universe, S.H.I.E.L.D. is the government. In the original universe, S.H.I.E.L.D., people kind of assume S.H.I.E.L.D.'s always the government. S.H.I.E.L.D.'s kind of its own thing. It's kind of its own government-esque task force. But in this, it's like, no, the government creates S.H.I.E.L.D. to start the super soldier serum. And basically, after the events of Washington, D.C. with Magneto, they get Bruce Banner on the super soldier serum, and then Nick Fury's also trying to put together a superhero team, because he doesn't really believe in Dr. Banner to pull through with it, because Banner got, in his own work.
Portrayed it that
he
way.
tested on himself, and that's how the Hulk came out, right? So basically, he's promoting him to number 2. He's basically giving him all the resources you need to continue the program because they found Captain America in the ice. So they want him to talk and then use his blood to create more or whatever, right? But he's also making the team. He puts him down to number 2. And he's pissed. Bruce Banner's pissed off about it. Everyone cheats. The Hulk has a rampage in issue 6, and that's kind of the first arc. And it's really their own fault. They kind of egging on Banner. It's kind of, basically, they start the Ultimates program, right? It goes through, they're able to make the team that they want. However, in this time frame, there's no events or villains for the Ultimates to fight. And so, the Bush administration and everything are going to pull the funding for the Ultimates. And I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. They're going to pull the funding, but then Bruce Banner's like, I'm going to save the program because he's just a lunatic in this, and everyone's bullying him and thinks that he can't, that he's just a puny Banner.
And again, kind of the modern... That's a modern spin on it. Everything in the old stuff, it just wasn't as pronounced as it is in this, with the natural, the egos involved and how they pick on each other and the way that Banner's portrayed as a true, when I was a kid and read Hulk, the original Hulk, Banner was okay. I felt bad for him, and even in the old shows and stuff. I mean, just all the portrayals. But now
Betty Ross in this book is horrible.
Yeah, she's a bitch. So in this, this whole piece is really, the two sides of the coin. The big, I want to be big, right? As he says in there, I want to be big again.
He's not really a good person in this book because he's
just a weasel.
He's got a lot of mental health problems.
Mental health. It's just and
they make fun of him.
And everybody else is portrayed, particularly Pym, which has his own problems. And he does, and Pym has his own problems in the original series, as we all know. But
he's even more of a douchebag in this.
Yeah.
But that's kind of Mark Miller. I was talking about how I'm blanking out, but kind of the stuff Hulk later in the '80s they add to him. That he has mental health problems. That's why there's all the different Hulks. That's kind of their take on it. That like he's just he's kind of too nerdy for his own good. Everyone makes fun of him, but then he's got he wants, like you said, he wants to be big.
Sure.
But then they're making Hank Pym, which is like awful idea, but they're promoting him to number one to take care of the program, even though he's giving Banner all his resources. And what's crazy is that Nick Fury put Banner on sabbatical because of the Hulk rampage that happened. So him, General Ross, and Spider-Man gets involved, kind of wipe out that part of it's like some port in New York, right, some bay, and they're putting him on sabbatical. But he keeps saying like, "Oh, I'm not having any problem with the Hulk. There hasn't been a rampage in like 6 months. I'm totally healed up. Great. I got no problems. I don't even think about it." But of course, this book is sprinkled, especially in the first arc. He's sprinkled with. He's got PTSD from the Hulk.
Yeah.
And so
the whole alter ego, and other personality stuff.
It's all collapsing on him.
Yeah, Pym's situation is more insidious in a way. He's
just a jackass.
He's a jackass, but he also has his own problems because he's in his own way he's a failure, right? And and again, the same thing. He wants to be big, right? It's not an Ant-Man.
Yeah.
Here was Ant-Man. Of course, Ant-Man had been in comics since in Tales to Astonish and stuff. So he and the Wasp were originated there. Giant Man and eventually Goliath didn't come by till a little later. So
and they keep what's crazy. They keep the domestic problems that him and Jan have, but there's another layer to it. In the original one, he becomes Yellow Jacket, and he just becomes kind of a anti-hero kind of whatever jackass and that beats her, right? And this Wasp is secretly a mutant. They changed it where she is a mutant, and he gets the Pym particles from her powers. That's how he develops it.
It's a nice.
And so since he's not a
symmetry to it.
Yeah, since he's not a mutant, when he uses it to make his own advancements of powers, it starts messing with his brain and stuff, and it kind of, it's kind of like the Caps. It's like Super Soldier Serum. It's like you put Super Soldier Serum in Steve Rogers, he becomes Captain America, but you put it in someone else who's got problems like Banner or Pym, they're not going to be Captain America. They start, we all know what Pym does if you're just in the comics. But anyway, we move on. Nick Fury's with Tony Stark, and in this, everyone knows he's Iron Man. The anime movie they do the secret identity thing, but in this, everyone already knows he's Iron Man, or at least Nick Fury and stuff do. And basically, he doesn't have the arc reactor thing. In this, he's got like a brain tumor. He could drop dead at any point, so he is a functioning alcoholic full time in the Ultimate Universe.
Yeah.
But however, he's not really. I mean, he's still slimy. Gets with women and. Is still the billionaire billboy philanthropist, the famous line RDJ says in the movie. However, he wants to do good because he gets the Iron Man technology and he's like, I'm going to be a good guy. And so basically they take, how in the first Iron Man, as soon as he develops the reactor, the government wants the stuff. He's like, no, this stays with me. And you see that in Iron Man 2. And this, as soon as he makes the Iron Man armor, the government's mad and Nick Fury's trying to hold him off. The government, basically the military industrial complex wants the Iron Man suit.
Sure.
And so they, Nick Fury's trying to keep that at bay, the government at bay, and instead basically fulfill their wishes by just getting them on the Ultimates program. Which he reluctantly does. He just because it is a source for him to do good. Jarvis in this isn't the AI; he's the butler, which I think is kind of cool.
I think he's the gay butler in this one, isn't he?
I don't remember him being gay or whatever.
The way
that might be Ultimates.
The way he approaches Captain America, I felt like he was, looking for some super soldiers,
super booty, But basically, the Ultimates program is going through, and they're getting everybody. We don't have to get too nitty gritty. They find Cap in the ice. Bruce Banner's having more flashbacks, and what's cool is the Triskelion from the movies is from this book, the base that they have on the ground, because they have the helicarrier, but this is much more because this SHIELD is the government. So basically, Pym's working through. Cap wakes up. It's basically the scene at the end of the after credit scene, the first Avenger Captain America film, is straight up from this book. He wakes up and just freaks out because if you wake up 70 years later and you're a soldier with PTSD, of course you're gonna freak out.
Yeah, but they changed again. They changed it to where in the movie he's got a pretty kind of a cute nurse dressed of that time period playing the ball game thing. which he actually attended. So they downplayed sort of that piece of, hey Nazis, you should have done better than this. I'm gonna beat you up.
And this, he just kicks everybody.
Yeah, he does. Yeah,
he makes it out. And
I think this is a more realistic portrayal of a man out of time, and not only that, a soldier that was in action. Right.
Yeah,
he was in action, and he wakes up in midpoint. I mean, he wakes up and he just fell off a rocket, right?
Yeah.
And after killing Germans, and so
it ain't like Red Skull comic booky Cosmic Cube stuff. It's straight up Saving Private. Right. Like the Chitauri here, they're like the Skrulls, right? They're shapeshifters, but they can't just go back in between their human form and their alien form. So they're just German soldiers, and so it's very
some of them,
yeah. I mean, some of them are, but it's pretty messed up. You find out later. I'm gonna jump the gun a little bit, but the Chitauri in this, they make it messed up. The Skrulls, right? However, they can't just automatically shapeshift somebody. They have to eat you. And then
they don't tell them everything. Go read the book.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm spoiling it. Yeah, it is crazy, but they have to eat you, and so they can't just, there's no super Chitauri like a super Skrull in this. It's more realistic, right? They're more just typical aliens, but, it's much more gritty, and so when he wakes up, he just freaks the fuck out, and Hank Pym has to grow up, and, basically they calm him down, and Nick Fury just takes him. Another difference from this is that Bucky doesn't, fall off somewhere and become a Soviet super soldier for Hydra and stuff. That never happens. He actually just grows up to be an old man.
Yeah.
And I forgot, they changed the name of Cap's love interest in a bunch of books and stuff, and the main one is Peggy, and then he gets with Sharon in the future. And this, I forgot her name, but Bucky ends up getting with her because.
And I don't remember because I'm not as much into the newer stuff, being obviously 20 years old now. But was the Brubaker run with Winter Soldier, was it after this published?
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know if
there was no Winter Soldier.
I don't think there was a Winter Soldier yet in the 616.
Well, back in the day, for like 30 years between Marvel and DC, the three characters they're dead, they're never coming back was Uncle Ben, Bucky, and Jason Todd. Two of the three came back. They're not going to, of course, bring back Uncle Ben. But what's kind of crazy is but this was pre-Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
So basically, he stayed dead, and there's no Winter Soldier. So the alternate take was that no, he didn't die. He came back. Or he didn't come back, but he just he lived. So that through the loss of their best friend, they kind of they get together, have a family, and it's all a huge shock. All of Cap's friends are dead, and this definitely played it much more where, like you said in the movie, he wakes up and he's a good guy, and so he kind of comes to terms with it. He still struggles with it a little bit, but he's able to adapt fast, right? And this, he does not. You don't even feel like he just comes back all the way. Yeah. He's kind of stuck in 44.
Yeah, I really think that they of how they changed it for the movies. Not that that's the point of this, but Cap was softened from what this was. Each of them,
much more of a hero.
Well, each of them were different mixtures of this book and the original 616. I mean that's just what they had to do.
I mean, Cap's a war hero in this, but he's not a superhero. He's not like you're gonna go give him a hug in the street after kind of guy.
No, not at all.
And so, of course, I prefer the 616 in the movie version compared to this Cap, because he is more of a hero.
I don't actually. I like this Cap.
Well, he could be a jack. Like when I say he's stuck in 44, I'm not just talking about PTSD, but everything. Like he beats up Hank Pym later because he's beating his wife. He goes on a mission to get him against his own will. But then after he beats Hank Pym, he tries to get with Jan, and it's just kind of like, I took your girl kind of thing. It's just kind of like, oh, dude, get out of here. But yeah, he is more of a soldier in every way in this book. But yeah, we got the Triskelion. Basically, the Bush administration is at this time, so that dates it. I mean, it's still a fun book. It still holds up, in my opinion, but it's just very much of the time, trying to make it modern, right? But basically, the Ultimates program pulls through, and they, George Bush. I think this is. I laugh every time I read it. I think it's so ridiculous, kind of thing. It's just like, well, what's your verdict on the 21st century Captain America? Cool or uncool? And he's just, very cool, Mr. President. But then, here's more pop culture references. Tony's with Shannon Elizabeth from way back when. And there's who's this guy's name again? Larry King, right?
Yep, Larry King.
So it's just there's so many pop culture references in this book. It's really funny. But yeah, they're kind of going through, and basically the main thing is that the government and S.H.I.E.L.D. Nick Fury established the Ultimates program to combat the fear of the mutants, right? However, after they launched the program, there's nothing really going on, so it's kind of a waste of money with the government, because there hasn't been any more crazy Magneto, because in this it's not really supervillains as much as it's post 9/11 super terrorism, right? So Magneto's basically a terrorist in the Ultimate Universe. I mean, he's the one that caused Ultimatum. I mean, he's a full Omega level mutant in this. Like basically at the end of the first arc, Professor X has to brain dead Magneto just to keep him at bay. He's much more of a bad guy in this than an anti-hero. I mean, he's trying to fight for mutant kind, but he's like a antithesis for every terrorist at the time, or terrorist group. But basically, the Ultimates haven't been accomplishing anything, right? This kind of programs, they're spending a bunch of money, nothing's going on. And so Bruce Banner, going through all the bullshit, there's a scene in here where they're talking about if Hollywood, they're going to make an Ultimates movie, who should they cast? And it's kind of funny breaking the fourth wall, but they start making fun of Banner in this. He hears it, and he just kind of goes off the deep end, and he's just like, you know what? I took the Hulk at the start of the Ultimate Universe is very much like the OG Hulk. He's just green. He's not crazy. Well, he takes his research that he's doing with Cap at the time after they bring him back and mixes his blood and serum with his blood, injects it, because he's like, you know what? I'm going to give I'm going to say, it just goes crazy. I'm going to save the program and the funding, give the Ultimates something to fight. It's kind of like the plot of the first Suicide Squad movie where they were making the program, but it's really, at the end of the day, Amanda Waller's fault for shit happening, right? And so he basically, the Hulk turns into the Ultimate Universe Hulk that everyone knows, and he's not like the main 616 Hulk. He's like an actual monster, like will rape, kill, eat you.
Yeah, and that everything. Cartoon, the cartoon of the Ultimates, what was that called? The cartoon movie?
Oh, they called it the Ultimate Avengers.
Yeah, that was a fun movie too. Again, a different take of the MCU.
But it's this book basically.
It's basically this book, but it's a little different take, a little bit.
Yeah.
Cap's
the superhero.
Yeah, but it's a fun watch actually. If you like this book also.
But there's so much stuff from just those two movies too that they take that's not in the comic book, that's from those movies that Feige takes from those early Lionsgate Marvel animated movies.
Yeah, that's right.
They take the Doctor Strange movie is straight up that animated Doctor Strange movie, which I think is better, but there's so much stuff in there. I mean, the Hulk but that Hulk in that movie is like some of the most fun animated fight stuff with Hulk.
Yeah.
And they I forget his name, Freddy something, but the iconic animated Hulk voice actor, that was his first movie. And so
did you do the voice for the Deadpool Wolverine movie too?
Yep, that's him.
Dr. Banner, Bruce, you did it.
Yeah, he's good.
So the old Hulk cartoon, people don't know this, but that was actually Lou Ferrigno.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because they got him. They kind of come in and
I've met Lou Ferrigno. Pumping iron.
You look like a principal.
Pumping iron, baby. Pumping iron.
But basically, Hulk freaks out. They assemble the Ultimates to go stop him, and Cap's like, we're gonna give him a fight. And this is when it's crazy. They want to put on the show for the world kind of thing, right? They're gonna use all this funding that they haven't been using at all. So they bring in Giant Man on a freaking helicopter. They're carrying him into the city. They're gonna drop him, which is kind of crazy. They're over exaggerating, but the Hulk. I mean, it makes sense, but they have all this stuff, and they still have a hard time fighting because the Hulk is a beast, and this is like one of the most iconic Hulk images ever. I think. I mean, he is I'll expand it later, but yeah, he is a serious. He's a monster. But basically, Betty in this book is she's a bitch. She's a terrible person. She's like, Bruce, they used to date, and then she's like, you're such a weasel, blah, 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 blah. And basically she goes on another pop culture reference, goes on a date with Freddie Prinze Jr. It's kind of a gag in this book. Hulk finds out, and he's like, I'm going to rip off Freddie, wipe my ass with Freddie Prinze Jr.'s
so like
face.
you look at that, and then you look at this from issue 3, right? That Hulk and Namor, right? Which is really how they found Cap, but fighting those guys. Different. So it's just a totally different.
Yeah, and he's gonna rape Betty. It is dirty. I mean, he's a monster. So basically, they stop him, but the Giant Man gets him, and this fight's iconic because he's calling him Little Man, and that's how they kind of throw in the Hulk jokes from 616 in here. He's like, oh, puny Banner, you ain't like this. Then of course Hulk just breaks his jaw, wipes the floor with him.
You're still a little man, Banner. Now knock it off or I'm gonna squish you.
Iron Man, they kind of, basically Cap, he's a soldier, right? So they fight him tactically. Like, so they send them one at a time at first. And so he sends in Iron Man. I love this fight. You know, Iron Man, he just kind of like, he wants to be superhero and do good, but he's got his own, Tony Stark's got his own problems. He's got anxiety and stuff. And so he thinks it's like, oh, whatever. Well, Hulk starts ripping them apart, and he's just like, oh, shit. He starts freaking out. And so he puts in a sonar, kind of gets off Hulk because he just wants to get the hell out of here. But basically, he's just knocking off everybody off the list. The only one who really puts up a fight with Hulk in this is really just Cap and Thor. Like, Thor. Yep. Oh, yeah, we didn't talk about Thor. Thor in this is like a liberal, very much a pro-people, environmentalist hippie. And he basically just like, the joke is you don't know if he's actually like Asgardian or if he's just a guy with a crazy techno hammer, you know. They don't think, Nick Fury doesn't think Asgard's real. He's got powers, but they think he stole technology from somewhere.
That happens later.
Yeah, and so Ultimates 2 is about kind of more of that stuff, and it is real at the end of the day. But they make fun of him and stuff. They try to get him. He's just like, I'm not stepping foot. I'm not coming to Washington, D.C. I'm not joining your pity party, Nick Fury. But, of course, he pulls through whenever Hulk goes crazy, and him and Cap actually fight him. But, you know, they're fighting. Cap drops a tank on him. He rips him out. I love this fight. You know, he starts beating up Hulk. Hulk's getting back. He tries to inject. They basically have a sedative. They're trying to get him, and he's just going crazy. And the only way to distract Hulk they get is the Wasp shows her rat, and it goes into his brain and zaps like the sedative in his brain and calms him down. But yeah, man, there's so many iconic images from this book. You know, when Thor comes in and beats up Hulk, and basically, you know, they end up beating Hulk. They get Betty on a helicopter. He chases after him, and then, you know, they get the sedative. He falls, and it just turns into Bruce Banner. And then, you know, Cap's very much like what Mark Miller did is just like, what are these heroes like in the real world, and if the government funded them? Because, like, there's still real heroes in the Ultimate Universe, but that's really safe for, like, Spider-Man. Like, Spider-Man is straight up, like, everything you like about him from 616, his character remains in the Ultimate Universe. Like, he is the most pure superhero, and they talk about that. Like, Nick Fury's thinking about it, but he's like, I don't want you joining the Ultimates because it's like you're a kid. And he's really, Nick Fury in Ultimate Spider-Man is really a mentor to Peter a little bit. They got their own problems, but basically everyone else is like, you know, this is like, you know, the government. If government funded superheroes, they're probably not. You know, they're soldiers, right? And so they're not afraid to kick somebody when they're down. And of course, Bruce he deserved it, in my opinion, in this. So basically, there's cleanup crew, and the last issue of the first arc with Hulk is basically they're celebrating. You know, they bring Tony. Tony brings Thor and Cap over, and this also is just kind of the main Wasp issue. This is when it shows the domestic violence of their, you know, relationship, and that is harkens back to the old stuff. You know, later it's brutal. It is a nasty fight. But anyway, basically the second half of the series is when the Chitauri get involved. And I think it's like really, really cool because then now it's like actually a real threat that the Ultimates are involved in, you know. And so this show's second arc introduces Black Widow, who's a real Russian in this. And in Ultimates 2, to get ahead, you know, we'll cover that another day, but she's not who she appears. And that kind of is a homage to the original where, you know, she was not really a good guy when her and Hawkeye popped up.
Yeah.
And so, but it introduces Black Widow and Hawkeye. Basically, everything that you know about Black Widow and Hawkeye from the MCU is from the Ultimate Universe. They're basically just double agents for S.H.I.E.L.D. And then also, I didn't know this like was a kid because it wasn't in the first arc, but Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch are in the series. But the joke is they don't fucking do anything. They just kind of sit around. They don't want to do anything because they're secretly mutants, right? And Nick Fury knows that, but he's just kind of like they're willing. Basically, I think they captured them from after the second arc in Ultimate X-Men because they were on the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants.
That's right. As they were in the original
616. Yeah. Either Brotherhood of Evil Mutants or Weapon X or something. And Nick Fury is in that book and gets them. He's like, I can send you to prison for the rest of your life, or you could join my little squad here and do some good. And so they're in it too, but they're weird. I mean, Ultimate Universe, it's different, man. It turns in 616 on its head, and then this, it's like, you know, they're more than just twins. They're, you know, it gets a little ugh. Yeah. But, you know, Cap tracks down Hank. They have a little fight, and that's kind of just a subplot. That's not the main thing. But basically, through intelligence missions with Black Widow and Hawkeye, they're raiding all these businesses in New York, and there's, you know, people civilians are noticing all this government stuff happening on, and that's because they got intelligence that the Chitauri never left after they lost in World War II. They've been secretly involved in... I feel like they kind of got the Hydra shield plot from Winter Soldier from this, except they replaced Chitauri with Hydra, you know. 'Cause it turns out that all this government, all this famous history, moments in history, you know, going up basically from World War II to the modern day, you know, certain famous historical moments is because Chitauri have been influencing, and they've been undercover, you know, like Skrulls the whole time, and so they find that intelligence and Black Widow. And what's crazy is everyone's freaking out because like the government show up in Black Widow when they raid this office, you know, this typical office building, and they start shooting everybody. Everyone's freaking out, but they're all aliens, and so like it's kind of like an homage to what's that famous alien movie where Invasion of the Body Snatchers. It's kind of like that because they're like, oh, we're just blah blah blah. They shoot a random civilian in the face, and then all these humans they're like aliens and start attacking them, right? Yeah. And so basically they have a mission. They go to some island that I think was where it was in World War II because they think the Chitauri are there, and there's a lot of iconic images in this. This is in my opinion, Brian Hitch, the artist, this is his best work. His stuff on Authority that changed comics at the end of 1999 before DC got their hands on Wildstorm and Jim Lee came over. He brought that franchise over. But that was so popular that when they did the Ultimate Universe, they're like, we need that guy. Because he kind of changed comic book art. Like, this is very much like a movie pitch. It's very cinematic, right? How it is, you know. And basically, it's just the end of the story. They get to the island, and they realize that it was misinformed. How do I say it? Their intelligence was wrong. It was a ploy, like a secret ploy within their intelligence. It was fake. It was a setup. So they get to the island. There's like a nuke bomb there. They tame it and stuff. And basically the Chitauri infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D. and they're at the Triskelion. And basically they just start killing everybody. And they're going to launch nukes and just end everything, right? And so there's a creepy thing. It's, what's his name? Kleiser. He's got Wasp. And this is when it explains like who the Chitauri are, what they do, and he's just like, "Who do you think I'm transforming into next?" Because he's gonna freaking eat. It's just creepy. But yeah, basically they come back and there's an alien invasion, and they just fight it. You know, Thor gets involved. It's that iconic picture. This was the main poster for the anime movie, and they just kind of start fighting them, and you know, Cap. This is one of the most famous moments from this book that's controversial. I think it's hilarious, and he's a soldier, so of course he'd say it. But he's like, "You're gonna surrender, Captain America," and he's just like, does this A stand for France? You know, that's pretty funny. But they start fighting them, and they're kind of losing. Iron Man's got anxiety, and they all think they're going to die because this is like nothing like this has happened. This is more catastrophic in a way. It's kind of away from civilians, but it's like Magneto all over again, you know. But what's cool is they take this straight out of the movie. They treat Banner so bad. I mean, he kind of deserves it, but like they basically drop him like a bomb and unleash the Hulk on the Chitauri. And the Hulk's fighting in the Ultimates too. He starts freaking out. Like he grabs Captain America like... I think this is so funny. He grabs Captain America like, "The Blue Man, you're responsible, boy. I'm gonna freaking eat you." And the Cap's like, "That naked guy over there, he was sleeping with Betty." He says like he's getting with Betty over Banner. He's just like, "What?" And then Hulk literally. That's how they stop. Hulk eats.
But they drop Hulk. They drop Banner in the Norton movie.
Yeah, that's straight up from this book.
Same from that. So they drop Banner to get him to change to simulate that change. He's been fighting it, and they just throw him out of the. Yeah, they just throw him out of the chopper, man. So
I mean in that movie it was his choice, but in this they don't give a fuck. They just throw him out. But they're using the Hulk, and so but that's straight up from this book. And you know, that guy went and made Hulk angry. I mean, he's a monster. They end up beating the Chitauri. You know, they beat him, and Hulk just eats him like it's insane. And basically now they have to tame Hulk, and so Hawkeye gets the sedative. In this universe, Black Widow and Iron Man get together, and that's a big plot line in Ultimates too. But yeah, they defeat the Chitauri and get Hulk, and then that's really it of it. They have a celebration at the White House, and it just kind of ends. Hank dances with Cap and stuff, and yeah, that's kind of it. That's Ultimates 1, basically.
Yeah. A lot. It's funny how they rework. You know I mean, basically, it's the 616 Avengers issues 1 through 16, right? In 16, they had the team change where they brought in Quicksilver and basically a team with no power, and Cap stayed to be their leader. Yep. And in the old in the old cartoon series that you used to watch that we liked?
Oh, Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes.
Yeah, I really liked that one. I liked the art and everything else.
Yeah.
To me, that was more of a synopsis of, again, very similar to the first 16 issues.
Yeah.
Most of the things they're doing sort of encompass the original team,
Yeah.
which again I happen to like, which is why I'm having a problem with the movies, as you know.
Yeah.
And but all this, okay, we've got Hulk. Well, really, what do we do with Hulk? He's an anti-hero. In the first one, he becomes. He basically is there. Two issues, and then they're fighting him by issue 3 with Submariner, right? And then 4, they bring Cap in to really replace him. They really bring Cap in to replace him.
Yep.
How do they create threats, right? This book creates an internal threat. Hey, we're still fighting Hulk. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
And then and they get into Kang. Wonder Man shows up.
Yeah, that cartoon's very much based off the original Avengers.
Yeah.
That's another Clone Wars situation. That show was so good. I remember we thought they announced season 3 because that was one of my childhood shows growing up. That was my first enter. You got me. He got me into all this stuff, right? So I knew the Avengers before all my friends did. Like, I got into the Avengers 2 or 3 years before the movie came out because he showed me a lot of the old comic books. He showed me the old animated movies, that Ultimate Avengers movie. And then kind of my prime time when I was getting all that is when that show started. And that show started 2 years before the movie came out. Yeah. And so, I knew what the Avengers was way before any of my friends did. So I loved it. But that show was one of the best superhero animated shows ever. And it sucks that it got canceled because we thought they were announced as season 3, but it was actually, they canceled that show and started one to be more like the movies, and that show sucked.
And I don't know how, we've laughed about this. I don't know how all the big name guys that are out there doing comic book stuff and all this kind of stuff, how they collected. But when I was a kid growing up in Austin, we all had our favorites, and we've had that discussion. I've even given you names of buddies, whether it's Brad Glover, Justin Glover, Jack Plunkett, whoever.
Yeah.
Hey, I collect Spider-Man. Hey, my team was the Avengers. I read a lot of DC as a young kid, like in the early '70s. But Marvel was kind of the fresh.
Yeah,
the fresh stuff, and so
they go back and forth with their.
Yeah, and I've gone back and forth over the years, but the Avengers were always the team that I collected. So the periphery of that are the Tales of Suspense with when it split, and obviously with Iron Man, and then Cap became part of it after Avengers 4, and how that split apart into all that artwork and stories at that time. So shout out to Austin Books, shout out to the Pirates Den Flea Market, right, which I don't think is around anymore, but the biggest collection of comics I'd ever seen in my life, and still to this day.
It's my favorite comic store.
Short of a convention, Pirates Den was the biggest, and it was fun for a kid because you just go in with lawnmower money and you could you try to get what you get. You can't do that anymore, so that's why you had to sort of pick, and you swapped and reread other guys' stuff. But which is why I have this stuff now. So so it's fun. It's fun to talk about it, and I like the new stuff. It's just too much. It's too high volume. I can't read it with the rest of life going on. Right. So
he's busy, but he would love that the current stuff coming out. I kind of help him. Tell him what to read and stuff like that. Invaders book was Chip Zdarsky was really really good. And
I'm all about. We're gonna get into all kinds of stuff. I still think that they should make an Invaders movie now that they've established a couple of folks. And there, Human Torches in the real Captain America movie. MCU needs to make the Invaders.
What's funny is that idea. We had an idea of, and some of my friends told me this. Like my roommate was like, they're making all these Disney Plus shows, whatever. They should make a Disney Plus show of the part in Endgame at the end when Cap returns that. It's 10 seconds in real time, but that is however long he needs to return all the Infinity Stones and hammer. Thor's hammer, right? And I had a pitch I told you right after Endgame, I'm like, this would be genius. If Chris Evans ever wanted to come back and give one more stint to Captain America, they should do that. But instead, he gets, maybe something goes wrong, he loses a pin particle, he gets caught in World War II or something again, he has to inform the invaders at that time.
Yeah. I still think that was probably a creative out. I mean, who knows? Yeah. Marvel seems to...
Well, they wanted to save Namor for Black Panther, and then...
That's fine.
Which he is a black... He's got a big...
But he's the original mutant. They saved him. I mean, we're going to geek out, but they saved him. But, hey, have him back in the day, and you had the original Human Torch in the first one, with at Stark's exposition. Yeah. And you've got
there.
Yeah, you've got the whole thing.
Marvel, you're making a bunch of great stuff and some crap, and you say you're running ideas. if you need an idea, there's one right there for you that everyone would be drooling over. Just don't make it cheap and mess it up or whatever. I mean, I'd like to be that a movie over a show. I think that's great because I think Chris Evans to me is Captain America. I mean, he had the awesome cameo in Deadpool as Human Torch, but like
he's got America's butt.
They all they all say they're done, and then they dropped $1 billion on RDJ's line. He's coming back as Dr. Doom. So I'm like, Chris Evans would come back and play Captain America if you paid him enough money. I like to see that. I mean, that'd be an old school. That's their chance. A lot of people don't like that first Cap movie because they think it's too cheesy. That'd be an awesome thing if they made like a. They're not afraid to do rated R movies. Took them forever, but they finally did it. If they wanted to make it Saving Private Ryan, Band of Brothers style, if they want to do that story, he gets trapped, has to make the Avengers, but make it like actually gritty, like Soldier, World War II. I think that'd be incredible. However, there is the rumor that post Secret Wars they are going to do the Hickman reboot. Marvel never reboots, right? They only ever did one. That was their first thing. They tried the Crisis thing that DC does. Because Marvel never reboot. They would just retcon. They did, instead of Vietnam, Tony became Iron Man. It was, Desert Storm or the war in Iraq.
Yeah.
And so there's a rumor that they're going to reboot after Secret Wars in a few years. And if they do that, I think they should do, it's kind of like Phase 1, except make Phase 1 Spider-Man, X-Men, FF, and then like do this book. But then if they want to change it up, I mean, do that. I mean, I think Saving Private Ryan's not a Captain America movie or Vader's.
Well, I just
awesome.
As you know, everybody on here, great book, fun read.
Yeah,
the original guys on MCU.
Yeah,
that's still my team. I haven't enjoyed a lot of the more recent content. A little bit of some of it.
There's been diamonds in the rough,
but I'm not like you keep them around like you run it back as we say, right? Run the team back. If they were. They made all that money, run it back, baby. And they kind of.
And I get that they're trying to, promote B to C list to build out the universe. I get that,
sure.
But they should have, did like they did in the first 3 seasons, where they sprinkle it in. Like you have your Avengers, Captain America movie, but then you have one Ant-Man film or one Guardians. There's so many. They're expanded, but there's so many movies back to back, and they kind of use that to experiment with whatever, to kind of emulate or relate to everybody. But they should. What they should do is, I think, we're finally getting Fantastic Four. That should have been the first thing right after Endgame.
Okay, so so again, C-listers are C-listers because they didn't sell, or else Stiltman's a C-lister, and he's
and I like C-listers.
Space Phantom. I'm looking at number 2. Space Phantom was a C-lister that they just threw on Avengers 2, right? I'm just happy to be sitting here staring at it. So the great thing, you discussed some of this the other day.
Yeah.
Some great writer, some great creator, somebody comes and takes a C-lister. And makes them badass, right?
I'm reviewing this. It's upcoming, but perfect example.
Yeah.
Who's heard of Animal Man? But you get one of the greatest writers ever. Put him on it. Could do whatever he wants. It makes a good story. That's where the problem.
So I don't think that you can make a living out of C-listers, and you got to get the right thing. Include parts, and then like you said, limited stuff. Like I like Scott Lang in Ant-Man, but it's a comedy effect.
Like Animal Man, like Superman makes a cameo in that book. Not that you have to. I mean, for me, it's good writing trumps all. That's why the first Guardians.
And you mentioned this the other day. I'm getting all my stuff in. Like they fucked Thor up bad. Like he's not total. He's comedic at certain moments, and then they just took it down a whole lot. So like the Thor thing, I just felt like they blew that whole line of thing and blew a guy that I think is Thor, right? In the MCU, we're talking about MCU stuff now. So getting back to it, and they've kind of messed up Hulk as well, is in my opinion.
Hulk's my favorite Marvel
I'm
character
just
ever.
kind of like I'm frustrated with all that, but I'm an original Silver Age guy, so
I have hope
parts of it
that the Russos are back, and I think Bob Iger is now back in charge. So I think we're gonna get some good Marvel stuff coming up. So I mean, they hope if Russo brothers back and if they still find a way to ruin those last 2 Avengers movies, Marvel needs to take a 3-year hiatus or something, because I know. Everyone knows the reason they put Fantastic Four in July is because Gunn is coming out, guns a-blazing, arms swinging with Superman, because since they're starting fresh, they're starting off with all their
A-listers. Is this another podcast? Are we supposed to be talking about this stuff?
Dude, you can talk about whatever you want on here. I mean, we're covering the book. But anyway, Strugglers, that was Ultimates by Mark Miller and Brian Hitch. That first maxi series changed the game for, so many books changed the game. Comic books change the game every 10 years or so, but that book is one of the most influential. You want to have the MCU without that. And we're talking about the MCU just because it's partly based off this book, but we want to cover it. I want to have my dad on the show. Happy Father's Day.
Cool. He says strugglers. He says strugglers. I say true believers, right?
True believers.
True believers. If you're a true believer, right? That's Mighty Marvel Club, baby.
Yeah. But thanks again for doing this. It's a big deal. Hopefully you can be back. Maybe we do Ultimate Spider-Man or the second half of that, and I'd like to do that Invaders book. Chip Zdarsky's one of the best modern Marvel writers currently going on, and that's a guy who loves old school, continuity. I mean, they offered him the main Spider-Man book. He didn't want to do it because he wants to bring it back. Everyone wants Spider-Man Mary Jane. That's a whole another story. I won't get into that right now. But but like, he'd be great. He's coming on the guy who wrote Invaders book, Chip Zdarsky. He's about to take over the main Cap book, so everyone's excited because
that's good.
The main Cap book's kind of been
Cap is
he's a great Cap writer.
Cap, and I'll tell you my perceptions of it. And again, I haven't read any modern Cap in a while.
Yeah.
But the Cap that I grew up with, that was a book that had a hard time sort of finding its way. It was always governmental, sort of. Whatever. It was limited in everything else in so many ways, but yet it was a great book, right? So a great character. So it's what they've done with some of it, but they can get kind of down and dirty with that stuff. Now, again, why Winter Soldier was such All the President's Men, like a great...
So good.
Yeah, it's good.
But also, they adapted Brubaker. That's why Cap has problems, because not many writers want to write Cap, and usually the writers that get for it, they kind of they bring Cap to their ideals, which doesn't really work. You got to be a Cap fan to write Cap.
That's right.
I think that goes for any character, right? But that's why Brubaker's run is... that book's almost 20 years old now, but that's still considered the modern Cap run that everyone goes back to. They're like, you want to get into Captain America, but a modern book, they give him his run. We'll definitely cover that book. That book's awesome. But the thing is what I'm trying to say is there hasn't really been anyone like Brubaker since. And so Chip Zdarsky did an Invaders book a few years ago that was fantastic, and his voice for Cap in that was great. So everyone's pumped up. They're like, finally somebody who knows how to write Captain America and wants to do it is hopping on the book. So I don't know when that's coming out. I know it's soon, but I'm definitely check that out at some point. I think you might want to. It's the same guy, so there's a rumor that he's gonna be continuing some threads from that Invaders book. But anyway, that's episode 1. We'll keep going forever if I don't shut up. So, but yeah, strugglers, thanks for watching. Happy Father's Day. Give them a hug. Read this book. Check it out. I'll put the link to in the description box for the trade paperback and the hardcover, depending on which format you want to read it in. And keep reading. Like, subscribe, and get the pump.
Get the pump, yeah. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, shout out to one of your buddies. JD, I had your breakfast with your dad yesterday. JD, be safe out there in California, Bubba. Lots going on, man.
Yep.
And thanks for everybody tuning in to old guy talking with his son about,
I'll have you on again.
As my wife and your mom would say, perhaps meaningless stuff, but it's a lot of fun. So
it ain't meaningless.
It's
People
fun.
Make whole careers off it.
It's fun.
So that's why I tell them. But all right, strugglers, don't forget to like, subscribe, keep reading, get the pump, and I'll see you next time.